I'm going to see how fast I can spin this thing. And now entering the ring, Mitsuharu Misawa. Hola, amigos, it's Will here from Will's Custom Figures, coming at you today, 2024, with a big bad breakdown of how I made this legendary Mitsuharu Misawa, or as the Japanese say, Misawa Mitsuharu custom head sculpt. So please, guys, sit back and relax while I talk you through everything that I did with this head sculpt and why. So firstly, as you can see, I've not done the body for this figure. This is a head only commission. I much prefer finishing the full figure. There is a certain amount of me that just wants to see it through to the end, but my customer, really great dude, he is going to be using a Samoa Joe body. If you haven't seen my custom figure of Misawa that I used this same head sculpt for probably about two or 3 years ago, then yeah, please have a look through the history and you will see it on there in his legendary green and white outfit using the Samoan Joe base. It's a perfect base to use. And of course, it's a little bit cheaper just to get the head sculpt done rather than the entire thing. Now, this head sculpt is available if anyone wants it. I sculpted this from clay and then used a silicon cast and then resin molds to replicate it. The only thing I have to then customize in addition to that is the very top, where there is a small sort of like straw where you pour the resin into. And I also added on, not sure if you can see, there's a little bit of hair just on the side here coming down the head. Now, I didn't do this on my previous figure because I didn't have what's called Procreate Putty. Procreate Putty, you mix a grey and a white part together, and there is, don't know if you can see the other little bit, there's a little bit sticking up that he would have probably combed back, but it's came forwards because of his match, or he's wet his hair. I don't know if you can see it from different angles. And when I've done all of the clay sculpting, what I decided to do was go ahead and use a little bit, just 2 strands of hair. It's air drying, whereas the actual head itself, when I made it from clay originally, a lot of my clay sculptures are, you have to dry it in a kiln or in your oven. So because it's air drying and it's actually flexible, it can move. So I don't know if you can see or if it is just going to be too small, but yeah, these pieces, you can move them around and they don't actually break off. So really cool. I have to super glue them on there and then hand paint it all. But you can see if this little strand of hair sticking forwards was just sticking forwards made of normal clay, that would crack off just in the post or with a little touch of your finger. The Procreate Putty isn't great for doing full action figures or full head sculpts like this one, because the Procreate Putty is only more so for things like thinner clothing, strands of hair, and Phoenix Force Creations. If you've not seen them on Instagram, good God, that guy does Marvel Legends figures and action villains, heroes, and everything else. And the level of creativity and time and patience and the amount of Procreate Putty he must use is insane. So I'm going to talk you through now what I would do if I was going to be finishing this figure of the legendary Mitsuharu Misawa, and a little bit about his history. And here you go, guys. So just a little bit about the history of him. Pro Wrestling Noah. My son's actually called Noah. Little fun fact there. I actually went to see them in Coventry Skydome. That was where I'm from in the UK. I saw I think it was the International Showdown, or European Navigation Tour, sorry. So if you whack that in on YouTube, you'll see me and a bunch of my friends there. I think near the front row. Didn't quite have enough money at the time as 20-something year olds, or maybe even teenagers at that point. I think it was about 2003, 2004, something like that, to get front row. But I have always loved Misawa. I saw him wrestle for the FWA with my mum. She still remembers the chants, Misawa, Misawa. Such a respectful fan base there in Coventry, and it's in the West Midlands in the UK, so it's literally the middle of the country, so people come from all around to see this guy. Unfortunately, Misawa passed in the ring. It was a very unfortunate accident. I wouldn't recommend anyone go out that way to see it. Very sad. But I remember Misawa mostly for his run as Tiger Mask, 8-time world champion, speaks for itself, legend, epitomizes professional wrestling for me, and his legendary matches against people like Vader, Kabashi, oh my God, some of the all-time greatest matches you will ever see. Tiger suplexes on the outside of, and things that at the time were unheard of, but also done in a very real way, of course. Japanese style, strong style. Now, would I use any of these physiques if I was finishing this figure? I more than likely would not. This is probably a little bit too big. The Bossman body, the Jake the Snake, I think is probably a little bit too small if we hold them next to each other. Now, the customer, the absolute legend that has purchased this Misawa head sculpt from me is going to be using this on, as mentioned previously, the Samoa Joe Elite figure. So I'm just looking at it from a Hasbro perspective, what I would do. I do like the proportions of this big boss man, of this Sergeant Slaughter, and I would more than likely do this suited and booted. Maybe it's a press conference version of Misawa, just to give you guys a little bit of insight into the logic and the thoughts that I would go when approaching a project like this. If I was going to be using an actual wrestling figure and making it in his outfit, I would more than likely use a Macho Man Randy Savage, Rick Martel, Shawn Michaels, one of those sort of bases. I think that would look really, really, really nice. Now, a little bit of a school photo, just so you got a slightly different angle. Let's just zoom the camera in there, if it wants to. Here we go. And as you can see, just steel pin in there, a little bit of blue tack to hold it in place. I would use clay to make sure that was perfectly done. The eyes I have very, very nicely covered with a gloss varnish just to make them glisten a little bit. Same as with a little bit of the hair and the lips. Don't know if you can see in the light there, it glistens very slightly. It's like he's just ran his hands through water and he's looking forward to going out there and hitting a roaring elbow on somebody or an emerald flosion. And guys, that is it from me and from the one and only legendary Misawa. Who'd have thought that they'd have seen Misawa looking like this with a Sergeant Slaughter body? I didn't expect to be doing this today, but it is one of the figures that I had spare to hand that I thought I would show you. And I hope you like my little turntable as well. I went and ordered that off Amazon. I'm really happy with it. Just to bring in two different head sculpts that I've worked on previously. You might have seen my videos for Stu Hart and, of course, the legendary Angelo Poffo. There we go. And I'm very happy with how all these head sculpts turned out. Am I gutted I didn't get to finish them? Absolutely. I love starting a project and I love even more finishing it. It's something I really pride myself on. But for the time being, for what it is, it kind of is what it is. And I'm very, very happy to be sending these off today to their respective customers that have purchased them from me. And if you want any of these, I can resin cast and silicone mold anything you see on this page. So reach out on Facebook, on Instagram, or of course here on YouTube. If you've been watching for nearly 8 minutes now, I appreciate you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you all on the next one. PS, before I finish, this skin color, this is Leather Brown Vallejo paint mixed with, it took me a lot of time to get this color bang on, Citadel Kieslov Flesh. I mix them both together and I just keep experimenting until I get the right sort of Japanese skin tone. I love this skin tone. It's took me so long and I've tried so many different combinations, but I had to add that in there because you can't just get that perfect skin tone, at least I've found, out of a bottle or a tube of paint. You really have to mix and experiment and pop them together. So if that helps anybody else paint some of their Japanese wrestling superstars, I've also used that for Indian skin tone for colours in the past, then please feel free to use it. Let me know how you get on. Send me some pictures. And guys, that's it from me. Adios, Misawa.